So now we're going to go into the question and answer segment from last week. Now that we actually have some questions to look at. Let's see what we've got here. So Ryan asks, my question is, how would you think that some of your characters from Methods, without spoilers of course, would react in a situation to something like in the Ben Drown story? How about vice versa? Because Methods is such a more like grounded in reality movie, I would say most of the characters would be absolutely terrified what happens in Ben Drowned. I think that the main character of Ben Drowned, oh, that's interesting. Huh. I think that every character in Methods except for one would be absolutely terrified about what happened in Ben Drowned. That's about all I'll say about that. Pancreatus of Old asks, explain where you were at the time when you wrote Ben Drowned, what was happening in your life, and what exactly inspired the story of a possessed Majora's Mask cartridge. The name Ben, the number 423. Yeah, so I think I might have said this before, but I was a sophomore in college, and I had read a few creepypasta stories before. I felt that they were very mysterious, and I was really interested in the way that games were doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, because everything is so programmed into video games, right? Because you have all these variables that are programmed right in there, and then when something goes against that, it's like extra creepy and extra weird, because it's like they weren't meant to do that. These variables were not meant to be disobeyed, and all of a sudden something is going crazily wrong that shouldn't be going wrong. And it was that aspect of storytelling that was always really fascinating to me, and just like that, the creepy feeling, that weird, unsettling, this should not be happening kind of feeling. This is impossible for it to happen kind of feeling. So that kind of inspired me to try and take my own stab at that, and just kind of see where it ended up, and see just kind of what happened. See if I could do a good job at it, if I could do a compelling story, because I basically wrote it like it would be something that I would like to read. And I say, well, what I kind of envisioned, the idea of this creepypasta, and saying to myself, like, well, what would make this the most intense and believable thing out there, right? Like, how can I make this creepypasta the creepiest in the world, right? And I figured it was like, well, all these stories are really cool and great that I've read so far, but I think what would make it even more terrifying is like if you had some kind of proof to it, right? That you would have these videos that would kind of act as proof of what you've written down of the story, and B, almost have a different narrative and tell a different kind of story. And I think that relationship, that kind of symbiotic relationship between the text and the film converging together to tell this one story, I think it's super compelling, because then you kind of have these unreliable narrators in a sense, and you kind of have to start to figure out, well, something is not quite adding up all the way here. And I love that stuff. I love playing with the expectations about that kind of stuff. As for the name Ben, I just had a conversation with him the other day. A really good friend of mine back in college, he lived in the same dorm room as me, and I was just thinking, well, I'm going to have this big plot reveal where it's like, well, this character, his name is going to be revealed, and so I want it to make it a common name that it could really resonate with some people and freak them out, because you always kind of want to get that little scare, I guess. It's just like, oh my God, it's my name, like something tough like that. But I picked Ben because it was a common name, and it was the name of my best friend, and it was really funny because he was the first person I ever told that story to. Ryuk52109 asks, what is your opinion on the Ben Drowned fan ARGs that have popped up over the last 2 to 3 years? And by that I mean the Lost Memory ARG, John is Dead, and just finished the You Shouldn't Have Done That ARG. I always think they're super interesting. I haven't really kept up with them, so I wouldn't know too much about them and what they really consisted of. But I always do enjoy a good ARG. So yeah, I mean, it's stuff. I'll have to take a look at that kind of stuff. I've been so far apart from the story for a while now that you haven't really been keeping up with it too much. But I will look into it. Rising Sun goes ahead and asks that regarding methods, is it still the same movie that you envisioned back when you were collecting funds, or has it changed? It's a great question, and it has changed quite considerably since then. A lot of it has to do with that period that I mentioned in the last video where I had a hard time getting it off the ground, and my initial vision has evolved for way better, I would say, into something that is more complete, and I think we'd be able to reach more people. I think now it's way more cohesive, and I think it's way more complete in the sense that it covers some stuff with more reverence and understanding and empathy than I would have back when I was 22 or 23 and didn't really have much of an idea of what it was like to really go through a period when you're down on your luck in your life. And I am grateful for that experience because I think it makes the film stronger. I think it makes it more impactful. Brees asked what my thoughts are on Breath of the Wild, and I think it's really cool. I kind of hesitant about voice acting in Zelda, but it could be really, really neat. That trailer that came out, that like release date trailer, was incredible. And yeah, I hope the English dub is pretty good because I saw it when it first came out in Japanese, and then I don't know about I think Zelda's performance, English performance, was kind of, it either was like a bad take or something, or I don't know, but it just didn't really seem as emotional, I guess, as the Japanese performance. But that I'll reserve judgment until that comes out. But yeah, I think it could be really cool. So Zaiku, TMH, I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if it's not. Has Nintendo become aware of the Ben Drowned story or approached you about it in any way, legal or otherwise? And more importantly, what are your thoughts on the 3DS remake of Majora's Mask? As far as I know, to my knowledge, Nintendo hasn't publicly kind of said one way or the other about the story. I know a lot of Zelda fan sites have picked it up and run with it, and it's kind of, and it's integrated itself into the Zeldapedia and I guess the extended lore, I guess, of Zelda. I think the closest they've ever come is with that Majora's Mask 3DS trailer, in an official capacity anyway. And there was a brief like freeze frame in the trailer, and it was of the Link statue, but it wasn't on a Switch, because I'm pretty sure, and it's been years since I played this game, but that statue only has any kind of relevance whenever you need to hold down a switch in the game. So to have that statue just sitting by itself, and I think it was out in the middle of next to a house or something like that, like not on top of a switch, doesn't seem to make much sense. So I like to maybe think that was a little bit of a shout out, but who knows, I guess. But I haven't been reached out to in official capacity by that. Be fun. I'd love to do that kind of collaboration stuff. So that'll about wrap it up for today. I'll hit you guys back up next week. I didn't get to all the questions that you guys left on the first video, so just be patient. I'll probably get to yours if you haven't been answered yet. So yeah, thanks guys. I will see you guys next week.